Feel like motivation almost becomes like a dirty word because it's that elusive thing that's like, where do I find this? This is just the only problem I have. If I was motivated all the time, like I could do this stuff. I know what to do. It's just I need to do it, right? We've heard that so many times. But a lot of people think that I personally am super motivated all the time. But the reality is that I'm not motivated all the time. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Pre-Diet Podcast. I am your host, Allie Virtue. I am a functional medicine nutritionist and owner of Parkside Nutrition. And I am pumped for this episode. We are talking about how to create or build motivation. This is probably one of the most common questions I get asked. And I think I got some pretty good gems for you. I've been in this business for 8+ years now, and I love this stuff. I love talking about this stuff because I feel like motivation almost becomes like a dirty word in the nutrition and fitness industry because it's that elusive thing that's like, where do I find this? This is just the only problem I have. If I was motivated all the time, like I could do this stuff. I know what to do. It's just I need to do it, right? We've heard that so many times. So I really am excited to talk about this. I want to talk about motivation, discipline when it comes to your health journey and or forming any new habits, really. But a lot of people think that I personally am super motivated all the time because I do a bunch of healthy habits and I appear to be a very, successful in those endeavors. But the reality is that I'm not motivated all the time. And there's elements of my health journey that I'm still working on constantly. You never really arrive. I don't think. I think you're always tweaking and working on something. You always have weaknesses. And to somebody else, it might look like, you've made it, you've done it, you've achieved the level of mastery. And I think it's just an evolution of the journey. So, but before we get any further, I want to remind you, please, if you like any of the information in this episode or the previous work I've put out, please consider sharing this podcast or this episode with a friend. Follow on Spotify. Please leave a review if you are so inclined. Subscribe on YouTube. Give this a thumbs up. Subscribe to the free Ship Friday email list. You get free resources delivered to your inbox every single Friday. You get a recipe that I recommend to clients. You get a tip, tool, training, something to download, something tangible for you to immediately implement into your healthy living journey, and a question that I want you to ponder. If you haven't heard my work before, I'm big on conversations and thinking things through and helping people literally change the way they think about things. Because if we change how we think about things, we will change how we do things. So this episode is probably going to be the best example of that because I can't be in your back pocket all the time. Even for my clients, I am a text message away, but I want to teach them how to coach themselves so they can truly be successful for a really long period of time. And I do see that when I see clients doing really well, they start thinking in a different way and speaking about things in a different way. And that to me is really, really good signs that they're really going to be successful. So let's set the stage a little bit. Motivation isn't something that we wait for. It's something that you have to learn to create. Hopefully that is motivating in itself because I believe you are a smart, capable human and you can learn how to do anything that you set your mind to. So let's take that kind of mystique away or bust that myth that motivation is something that you just have or you don't. You are a disciplined person or you don't. This is something you can learn. It's a skill, it's a practice. If you treat your whole health journey like this, I think it gets a lot easier instantly or almost overnight. Because if I treat this as a practice, it becomes more attainable because at practice, at sports practice, at baseball practice, you can mess up and it's fine. And the game doesn't really end with this healthy living journey because the length of the game is your entire life. You can always keep working on this stuff. Yeah, hopefully you improve, but you're always playing the game. You're always developing your skills. So if we change the way we think about this, I think it'll be a lot less stressful of a journey. But I do want to talk about three tangible takeaways that you can walk out of this episode with. So one, I want to teach you a simple mental movement pattern to really spark action and help you build motivation. So I'll explain this in a second, but that's one thing. I'm also going to share some quick mental reset tools to kind of jumpstart things if you feel like you're spiraling. And I also want to guide you to connecting to a deeper why. And connecting to your why, I feel like is kind of overused, but having a stronger identity or a stronger image for the person that you are trying to create or mold yourself into really helps you stay aligned with the actions and where you want to end up. So I really want to help guide you or strengthen that connection with why you're even trying to do all of these healthy habits. So we're going to work on that. Those three things you will walk away with, and those will be very, very helpful in your future health journey. So let's bust the myth of waiting for motivation. We cannot wait for this. I can't tell you how crazy it makes me when I hear people say like, oh, I was doing really well, but I had a birthday and I haven't really gotten back on the wagon since my birthday, or I'll start next month, or I'll start on Monday. And it's like, you cannot wait to feel motivated to take any action with this stuff. Like, we can't just shelf this stuff. And we have to eat anyway, we have to sleep, we have to move anyway. So, like, taking small steps is just so powerful and so underrated. I can't express that enough. And if we think about this in another vein of life, if you waited to finish a work project until you felt motivated, you wouldn't get anything done. You would get nothing done, right? Let's use our current life as a source of proof that you are capable of doing annoying tasks, things that you just don't want to do. You get them done. You really do. You probably don't always feel motivated to go to work, but the consequences of not working equal no money, no money to pay rent, no money to buy stuff, no money to go on trips. You now no longer have a place to live, or, a means to get anything that you require for daily life things. That's pretty significant consequences, right? Now that we know that you can do things you don't want to do, let's register that as a fact, save that evidence for later. We're going to talk about a couple other strategies that relate to that particular line of thinking, but some people think that other people are just more motivated than them. And I don't think that's really true. I think that's often when you're comparing people at two different stages in their journey. I'll look at somebody ahead of me in business and be like, man, they're killing it. They're so motivated. And the reality is, like, that's potentially true, but also they're probably sitting on a pile of other skills that I haven't acquired yet. So their motivation level, my motivation level, or their level of discipline, my level of discipline is probably a little bit different as far as the percentage of the total that they're using. We'll dig into that example a little bit more as well. I don't want you to compare yourself to somebody else that's probably just at a different stage in their journey. Some people are more aware or more strongly anchored, I would say, to their identity and their actions and habits that go along with that. And this is one of the things that I hope to show you today. I want to show you how to build a stronger connection to the person or the version of yourself that you want to create. That will make those new habits that require so much motivation right now feel a lot easier down the line. A great example of this is, honestly, I feel like I luck out with this because my job is to help people get healthier. So it'd be pretty ironic and not very good if I didn't go to the gym, if I did not eat well, if I did not go for walks, if I did not manage my stress, if I did not get regular blood work done. Like, all of those things are probably habits and things that that a nutritionist should do. Someone who cares a lot about their health, identifies as a healthy person, identifies as a person that helps other people with their health in a really successful way, like, they should do those things. It's pretty black and white, right? It's honest, right? And so I think, as one of my core values is being a person of integrity. So if I didn't do the things that I was telling my clients to do, that would be a real problem. So that doesn't ever occur to me to not do those things. I just can't. Even if I'm not motivated, I just can't not do those things. Same thing as I identify as a person that's pretty law-abiding citizen. So I'm going to pay my taxes. I'm going to follow the laws. I'm not going to be, it's not hard for me to walk into a convenience store and not steal a candy bar. That just is not on my radar to do, right? That's how clear I hope to make this for somebody. So eventually it doesn't take any motivation at all. It just becomes something that you do because you are, an XYZ type of person. Just like if you identify as a good employee, you go to work on time, you do your stuff, you're a responsible employee. That is, might not always be motivated to do everything that is entailed in being a good employee, but you do it because that is something that you identify as. If we are struggling to build motivation from within ourselves, that's when we can really leverage our environment to make it easier to get those actions done. So we want to reduce friction and make the startup energy for those actions easier, more attainable, easier to get started, right? So this could be simple things like removing temptations in your environment. So if you're constantly having candy around, if you're having, foods that you have a hard time moderating the portion of, let's reduce those, make them less visible. Don't buy them, stop buying them, things like that. So we reduce the friction or effort on your part to, like, having to constantly try to avoid those foods. Just don't have them around. Remove the triggers that cause you to want to eat those on a regular basis. And the same thing, let's add into the environment things that help you stay on track. So let's buy some new gym clothes if you're constantly doing laundry to have clean gym clothes. Let's have our shoes by the door. Let's have a new water bottle that we love to carry around with us. Let's put some fun stickers on our water bottle. Seems silly, but let's make the environment more fun and more conducive to doing those things. I also would really love to flip the script that the principle of motivation follows action. It's not really the other way around. A lot of people are, like I said in the beginning, waiting to be motivated to do the things. You got to do the things to feel motivated, right? Like, how good do you feel after a workout? That's something I was discussing with a client this week. There's a lot of, nervous energy, anxiety around going to the gym for the first time in a long time. But they also remembered that they felt really good after workouts. So I was like, instead of focusing on the dread and like the anxiety of starting this journey again, can we recognize the fact that you are missing out on those endorphins? You are missing out on that community. You are missing out on feeling so great and so proud of yourself. And so hopefully that becomes more of a draw to get back to that habit and less of a like, oh man, I'm just so nervous. It's going to be awful. We know that it's like the payoff is going to be there. It is going to cost some energy and effort up front to kind of get through that first initial hurdle, but focus on the good things that you're missing out by delaying starting that new habit because the starting is the hardest part. So if we can practice starting, then the rest will follow. But we can't be really picky about the perfect exercise regime or the perfect diet until we just start eating better. And so we start taking more steps to get more activity in our day. We can't get real picky about the form until we start incorporating those things into our practice. They are a practice, so they don't have to be perfect from the start. I don't think there's any point in tracking, I've done 30 days of perfect exercise. I've done 30 days of perfect eating. Just start. We just got to be consistent for the majority of the time. The majority is not 100%. Nobody wins a race with 100% of the people on their side. That's just not how it goes. And the same with this. We just need the majority of our efforts being consistent and heading in a generally positive direction. So I want to talk about this mental movement pattern. I like to make analogies with like playing sports growing up. So even if you haven't played sports growing up, keep listening. But how I define this mental movement pattern is basically how I would teach someone to throw a softball or something. I want it to be a repeatable action or a repeatable route so they can kind of reference it for themselves later. So this is just a repeatable mindset shift with a couple cues. So I think of these things as, like I said, a literal practice. So it's not just a 30-day shred. It's not 75 hard where we're going 75 days in a row of all the habits. And if we miss one, none of that work counted. That's not how it works. Like I said, the game lasts as long as we live. We're in this for the longevity of it. So we have a lot of game time. If we want to think about it, we have a lot of practice time to work on this stuff. So with that being said, there's no point in quitting. There's really not logically a point in quitting. If our goal is longevity and to feel really good, like we can always be working on this stuff, but we don't need a deadline of like, I need to have XYZ done. I need to have perfected my health habits by X date. You might have a weight loss goal in a certain amount of time, and that's fine. But even if you're progressing at a slower rate than you would like, these habits are always going to serve you, always going to serve you if you have a longevity component to your goals. So the mental movement pattern is a series of thoughts or cues to help you work through those obstacles or literally coach yourself to a better, more aligned result. So here's one strategy that we can kind of use. So this usually comes into play when we're thinking particularly negative thoughts. I'm not a good person. I had too many donuts at breakfast or whatever negative scenario you find yourself in where you're really spiraling and it's really hard to take that next healthy step. So maybe I had a really awful meal, overate, feel terrible, and I'm supposed to meet my friend for a workout that afternoon. And I just feel like just giving up on everything, right? So this is where I want you to employ the 4 C's. So the 4 C's are catch, check, change, and a client added celebrate because they're like, I want to celebrate at the end of this process. I'm like, fair, okay, great. So catch yourself when you're getting stuck in those negative thoughts, that spiral of negative thoughts. Then you're going to check if it's true. So if we check if it's true, remember we saved that data of like, I can do hard things. So if I think I'm a terrible person because I overate on donuts this morning, I have a whole host of evidence that I've hopefully saved and tucked away of like, am I a horrible person? No, I'm a very good wife, very good family member. I take care of my animals. Like we can pull from other aspects of our life to break up that myth of like, I'm not a terrible person. I messed up once, but generally I take really good care of myself and I shouldn't beat myself up so much. So check. That is not true. That statement is not true. How can I change that statement to a more helpful, positive thought that promotes action? So instead of thinking, I'm a terrible person, I'm going to think, man, I messed up. I didn't really feel really good after doing that. I'm going to make sure that I remember that for next time that opportunity or scenario comes up. Maybe I only have one donut. Maybe I pass on the donuts because I really want to feel good. And right now, I don't feel very good mentally, physically, emotionally after doing that previous bad quote action. So that's more helpful. If I continue that line, hopefully I can start to think of like, okay, that's what I can do about that situation when it comes up again. I've learned from it. I've noted that. Now, what can I do for myself? What's something positive and promotes action? I'm not really feeling like a workout. I said I was going to go work out. I could still go work out with my friend that afternoon, but I could also just go for a walk, and that would be a really good thing for my body. I would feel really good with walking. It would help my digestion. It would make me feel good for getting some movement in. That's a more positive way of thinking instead of that all or nothing of like, I'm terrible. I should quit everything. That is not very helpful at all. And lastly, four, so celebrate. Pat yourself on the back. That is a win for making a different choice. And making a different choice is quite often a win in itself because if we don't always know what to do, what's the next positive step I should be doing, if we make at least a different choice from the negative one we've done historically, that's a win in itself. You've opened a new door of possibilities. So for next time when that comes up, you're like, hey, last time when I did something that I wasn't super proud of, like overeating on donuts, I made this positive choice to go for a walk and I felt really good about that. I'm going to do that again if that scenario comes up. And it might. We're not going to be perfect. Hopefully, I don't overeat on donuts again, but that is a possibility in the future because this is a practice. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to never have a donut again in my life. We're not doing the all or nothing perfection mindset here. Next, I want to talk about the quick mental reset tools that I use with a lot of clients. So the first one is if someone is spiraling. So hopefully they've kind of talked themselves down off the ledge and they can think, okay, what can I do next? And in the next 15 to 30 minutes or as soon as possible, I want them to do something that's positive for themselves. So maybe this is going for a walk. Maybe that's refilling their water bottle. Maybe that's ordering groceries, or maybe that's getting some time outside in the sun, deep breathing. Maybe it's ordering meal prep. Something positive that helps you out, hopefully now and also in the future. Hopefully, we're starting that positive momentum in the right direction. Next reset tool is don't miss twice. Yeah, you missed your workout. Yeah, you missed lunch. Or yeah, you missed something that you said you were going to do as part of your healthy habits. What's the next opportunity that we can make that happen? It's not a big deal if we're not perfect and we miss an opportunity, but making that a habit of missing a habit more than two times, that's how bad habits creep in and good ones die. So really kind of have that threshold for yourself of like, don't miss twice. If you're really new at this, don't miss three times, but that would be my kind of bare minimum. So don't miss two times in a row for a habit that you're trying to acquire. Next one is anchor that habit in something that you already do. So if we're trying to add more walking, what is something that you do all the time? Maybe that's taking a lunch break. Maybe that's spending quality time with your spouse after dinner. Maybe you go walk with them. Anchor it to something that you're already really good at being consistent at. This could also be taking your supplements when you have your coffee or when you have breakfast or something that's really consistent in your day so you don't forget it. You use that consistent thing that's already in your daily schedule as the trigger to do that new action. The last one I have here is knowing your power questions. So your power questions are the things that kind of get you back aligned with what you really want yourself to be doing. So I asked this for a client earlier today because she's feeling really motivated. And I asked, what is something that you would tell yourself when you're not feeling very motivated, potentially down the line or later this week? What's something that you would tell yourself? And she had great questions. She's like, I want to think about the end goal that I have in mind because that's really important to me versus weight loss and longevity and long-term health. And also this was funny because she almost didn't want to tell me this more negative one that's motivating. It has to do with pictures that she doesn't really love. But I thought this was great. She's like, I thought this might be too negative and maybe not a good example, but I thought that it was a good motivator or a good example of a motivator because it's the carrot and the stick, right? Some people are more motivated by chasing something good. Some people are more motivated by running away from something that's bad. I think you can have both because I'm motivated to be really healthy because I don't want cancer. I don't want a lot of chronic disease that has been very common in my family. So that's something that I'm eager to avoid, but I'm also really eager to be healthy and vibrant and have a lot of energy. So that's a positive I'm chasing and also a negative that I want to avoid. So I think as long as we're not focusing overly so much on the negative and we have a balanced approach from avoiding the negative and also chasing the positive, I think that's fine because I don't think that's a bad thing to not want to be in a place where our body is not very healthy. I think that's fairly good to be in touch with reality in that way. It's okay. So for that particular person, I wrote that down. I have that in my notes. So if we aren't feeling very motivated and feeling like we can kind of shrug some stuff off of like, it's not that important that I go to the gym. meal prep's not that important. Like, hey, these are some things you told me that are really important. Ah, shoot. So hopefully asking those questions, asking yourself those questions, can be really helpful to get you start to move in that direction. If those questions are really, truly powerful and meaningful to you, they're going to be hard to shrug off. And I'll get into that in a little bit with a little excerpt that I do for corporate wellness talks that seems to really resonate with people and help them kind of build a solid foundation that makes it pretty hard to quit when it comes to this stuff. So the next part is strengthening that connection to your true why. Why are you doing this stuff? And this is when I do corporate wellness talks, I have a graphic for this, and I'm a big graphic person, so forgive me, this is audio, and I'll describe it to the best of my ability. But I'm taking a lot of notes. When I'm talking to clients, I love to take notes, and that helps me just process it, both hearing it and seeing it. And so when people are doing really well, I love to ask them, what made the difference? Why does it sometimes work? What made the difference for you? And when I ask them, it's not usually anything terribly earth-shattering. It's usually along the lines of, I decided to do it. I stopped overthinking or thinking of other options. I just laser focused on the thing you told me to do and stopped my own kind of mental dialogue of like, should I do this? Should I do that? It's like, nope, just focus on this. This is the thing I'm going to do. I just need to figure out how to do it and how to get it done. They also stopped calling it a diet or a temporary approach. They kind of took it on as a part of their identity of like, this is just my lifestyle. This is just how I live. So again, that lowers kind of the barrier to entry as far as like, this is just what I do. I don't have to think like, oh, I have to eat vegetarian today. It's like, no, I just eat the food that I want to eat. I'm not actually vegetarian, but that was just an example. So for this corporate wellness talk, I have a triangle. And at the very tippy top of the triangle is your results. At the very bottom is your identity and mindset. Even below that pyramid, I have two pictures. And these two pictures are kind of what represent the biggest goals, so business and personal for me. So this could be, your health journey. But for me, the pictures at the bottom are a branding photo for my business. So that represents my business and the professional that I want to become. At the bottom to the right is also a picture of my family and my dad. My dad passed away from cancer when I was 23 years old, battled cancer for 14 years. That is a big motivator for me to be healthy as long as I can for as much as I can. Like it's always worth the effort for me because I want to be here for my family for a really long time. So those two things are pretty rock solid foundations for me as far as like I need to be those things. I need to be healthy for my family. I need to be a good professional for my business and for my clients to serve them well. So those things are pretty rock solid, as you can hear from me just talking about them. So those are pretty core aspects to my identity. That helps me keep my mindset on point because my mindset and how I think about things is also so tied to my identity, and they can loop back to each other to really just reinforce each other. And then on top of that, if we're going up the pyramid, is focus. So if my identity is super, super solid, my focus becomes easier because I'm not looking at the distractions that don't align with my long-term health goals, that don't align with my business goals. Like those things are off my radar. I'm focusing on the things that really help those two aspects that I'm working towards or working to improve. On top of that is willpower and discipline. So imagine this foundation. I have a super strong, clear vision of the professional and personal versions of myself that I want to become. I'm staying laser focused on the actions that will serve me in those endeavors. And then that's where willpower and discipline are developed from that really strong foundation. And if I do work to develop my willpower and discipline, because it's a practice, I'm not looking for absolutes with those things, but that will start to change my behavior, and that behavior leads to better results. So hopefully that gives you kind of a step by step as far as the skills that we're trying to develop. If we go straight to results, looking for our results, and we don't know the behaviors, our willpower and our discipline is not a very well exercised muscle, it's going to be really hard. This foundation of this pyramid is not going to be rock solid. So really starting at the bottom, and pictures and graphics are a great way to do this. But finding those pictures that are really speak to you as far as what is your identity, what are your core values, how do I build a super solid vision for myself that I can then layer on these things as far as identity, mindset, focus on top of that, willpower and discipline on top of that, behavior change on top of that, and that leads to different results for you. So that's just a little excerpt from that. There is another document that I go over and work through with people. It's called the habit contract. But that principles that we just talked about layer on top of that as well and really give us a good but adaptable defined but adaptable plan for people to implement these healthy habits. They get really clear, and they also come up with ways to be flexible when their life does get a little crazy. And again, because we have that flexible plan, flexible but defined plan, quitting again just doesn't really make sense because we've created options and routes to still be successful even when things get busy. So if you are interested in a corporate wellness talk, let me know. I can expand on that. But that's been a big hit with people lately. That's been a fun one. While we're talking about kind of creating that stronger identity for yourself and strengthening that connection to it, I also want to revisit what I said about not comparing yourself to somebody else. Because if you can, for example, if you compare your healthy habits to me, you're like, oh, it takes no motivation for you to go to the gym. You're not wrong, but you're right. The motivation it takes, if we were to, again, use percentages, I'm probably using like 5% of motivation, probably less than that, to go to the gym. It's not really a question. I don't really have to be motivated to go. It's just so routine, so habitual for me at this point. Like I don't have to use a lot of motivation. Versus if you compare that to somebody who hasn't been in the gym in a long time, maybe they have some previous injuries, or it's just such a new environment for them. Think about percentage wise, how much motivation are they going to have to use to start that gym habit again? Probably a lot, right? Probably like 90% or something really, really high. So if the scenarios aren't necessarily perfect, they have other compounding factors, they're tired from work, they're stressed out from family things or whatever is going on, and I need 90% of my motivation to go towards getting my butt in the gym, that's really hard. That's really, really hard. And you could use a different example for me. It could be something that's completely out of my comfort zone. And I, again, would take probably 90% of my motivation to get that new and uncomfortable thing done. So it's not a fault of anyone's character or anything like that. It's just so new. So the motivation to get that done is going to be really high percentage wise. And if our battery is literally, we've got 100% of our motivation or discipline battery to use, just kind of put a percentage on it and just realize that, like, yeah, I'm working on that. And again, this is if we're having to use a large fraction of our capacity to do those things as far as motivation, that's when we kind of circle back to our environments, like, okay, how can I help myself out? Sometimes that's literally changing the things in our environment. Like I said, remove the triggers for bad habits, add triggers for good habits, but also changing the people that I'm around. So if I'm around gym goers, when I hang out with my friends, now we go for a walk and a coffee date instead of always going out to eat or for a alcoholic beverage, like those things can also help you out too. So include those people that are doing those things that you think they just magically do these things with no motivation. Hang out with those people, and your motivation, it will be easier to jump on those habits just like they do. Promise. All right, so let's recap all of your tools that you got. So the 3 tools that you got, that mental movement pattern. So map out some questions to ask yourself to get yourself back on track and thinking of a positive, productive, and practical manner. 3 P's for you to go with those 4 C's. Use your logic to get you taking those better actions. Those 4 C's were catch. So catch yourself in those negative thoughts. Check if it's true. Check if that negative thought is true. We're going to change it to something that's more positive, productive to help you get you going in the right direction. And then celebrate that win that you chose a different action and you are moving on a better path. Those quick resets. So do something positive for yourself in the next 15, 30 minutes or as soon as possible. Don't miss twice with the habits that you've set out for yourself. Try to anchor new habits with habits that you already do and already very consistent with. Figure out what are some power questions for you. Does this align with what I really want long term? Maybe that's your question. But figure out those power questions that really help you realign or get back on track. And then stay connected to why you are doing this. What part of your identity can you pull from? Because I guarantee, and maybe not in your health journey right now, but in other aspects of life, you are so, so capable and responsible and able to do such hard things that other people just could not fathom. So pull from that. You can do hard things. We just need to pull that into our identity as we are becoming that healthier version of ourselves, that healthy person. That could be your power question right there. What does a healthy person order? What would a healthy person eat today for lunch if, they had access to XYZ foods? That can be your power question right there. So I really want you to try one of these techniques out this week. See if it can help you put it into practice. If you are inspired by this episode, or if you found something in here helpful, as a thank you to me, please take action on it. Use it. Put one of these strategies into practice. And of course, I would be so, so humbled and honored if you would take the time, if this did move you in a hopefully positive direction, share this episode with a friend, follow on Spotify, or leave a review. This really helps grow the show and get better information out to the people who really need it. Subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe to the Free Shit Friday email list for free resources delivered to your inbox every Friday. That's at parksidenutrition.com/subscribe. And hopefully you found this helpful. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I will chat with you on the next one.